Hi guys, welcome back to Pypro versus YouTube channel where curiosity meets the code. Today we'll be discussing about how to create a file shredder GUI using Python. But before that, we'll be checking the packages pre-installed in my system. So the first command that I'm going to execute in command prompt is pip list, where you can see all the packages with the versions. So you can give a look about what package is what version and update it accordingly. So you can take a look onto your packages. If not installed, please do install it. You can just Google how to install and there will be a command for that to execute in command prompt. Another command to check for all these is pip freeze, which gives a similar output where packages with the version will be mentioned. So let's get started with the code. So as usual, we are importing all the necessary libraries of the program, which includes importing OS, which provides a way to interact with the operating system, including the function for file operation, directory manipulation, and environment variables. Then also we are importing Shootil. So this is used, it offers a high level interface for file operations than OS, including functions for file copying, removal, and archiving. And we have import random, which provides functions for generating random numbers, selecting random elements from the list, and shuffling sequences. And we have from cryptography.fernet, we have import fernet, which is used for systematical encryption algorithm that provides easy to use cryptographic functionality. And also from tkinter, we have tk, button, label, entry file dialog, stringware, and option menu. This is all used for GUI. And if you come down to the program, you can see a main class under which you have multiple functions which include definition init, which is the first function under the main class, and we have the second function as browse file, and we have the third one simple overwrite, and then we have random overwrite, and we have secure overwrite. And if you come down, you will find shred file, and that is for the main execution of the program. So let's go one by one what each of the function does, starting with def init. First, let me explain the class first. So the line defines a class method file shredder. The init method serves as a constructor for these classes, which initializes the class instance with provided master tkinter widget, and we have self.master is equal to master, self.master title is equal to file shredder, and self.master geometry is 608 to 200. These lines stores the master tkinter widget as an attribute named self.master. Then they set a title of the main tkinter window to file shredder and its initial size to 600 pixel wide and 200 pixel high. And coming down, you'll see self.file label is equal to label master text file and self.file label dot grid row 0 column 0. These lines create a label widget of self.file label with the text file and replace it in the first row and first column of the window grid. And we have self.file input is equal to entry master with 50 and self-file input dot grid row 0 column 1. These lines create an entry widget of self.file input where the users can input file paths. It is placed in the first row and second column of the window grid. And we have self.browse button master text browse command self.browse.file and self.browse button grid row is equal to 0 column is equal to 2. These line create a button widget labeled browse and associates it with the self browser file method, which when clicked it plays the first row and the third column of the window grid. And we have self dot method label is equal to label master text is equal to shredding method self dot method label dot grid row is equal to 1 column is equal to 0. These lines create a label widget with the text shred method and place it in the second row and first column of the window of the grid. And we also have self dot method var is equal to string var master self dot method var set simple overwrite 0 into ff self dot method input is equal to option menu master self dot method var and self dot method input grid row is equal to 1 column is equal to 1. These lines create a string var object to store the selected shredding method, the initial value is set to the simple override 0 into FF. Then an optional menu widget of is created providing a drop-down menu with three shredding options. The selected method is stored in self.method var. The widget is placed in the second row and second column of the window grid. And we have self.shred button is equal to button master text shred command self.shred file and self.shred button grid row is equal to 1 column is equal to 2. These lines create a button widget of self shred button labeled shred and associates it with the self shred method. When clicked, it is placed on the second row, third column of the window grid. And we have self.result label is equal to label master text and the self.result label grid row is 2 column is equal to 1. These lines create a label widget self.result label with no initial text. It will be used to display the result of the file shredding operation. It is placed in the third row and second column of the window grid. Now let's move on to the next module, which is browse file. So starting with, you can see def browse by self. So this line defines a method named browse file within the file shredder class. This method is called the browse button is clicked when it opens the file dialog to select a file. And we have file path is equal to file dialog dot ask open file name title open file. File types is equal to all types and we have start dot start. This line opens a file dialog window using the ask open file name function from the dialog box module. It prompts the user to select a file and returns the selected file path. The dialog window title is set to open file and it allows all file types to be selected. And we have if loop if file path. This line checks if the file path was selected by the user. If the file path is not empty, that is, if the user selected a file, the condition evaluates to true, and then we get inside the loop, which is self dot file input delete 0 and self dot file input insert 0 file path. So these lines clear the current text in the file in input field and insert the selected file path into the field. This updates the displayed file path in the GUI. And moving on to the next function, which is the simple override. So firstly, starting with def simply override self file path. This line defines a method named simple override within this file shredder class. This method is responsible for performing a simple override shredding method. So we have a with open loop file path wb as f dot write b and os path get size. This block of code opens the selected file in binary write module using a with statement ensuring the file is properly closed after use. It then writes the byte 0 into FF repeatedly to override the entire contents of the file. The number of bytes written matches the size of the original file obtained using os.path get size file path. And then let's move on to the next module, which is random dot override. So firstly, starting with def random override self dot file path. This lines defines a method named random override within the file shredder class. This method is responsible for providing a random override shredding method. This is the second method of shredding. We have with open loop. So this blocks the entire with loop opens the selected file in binary write module using the with statement ensuring the file is properly closed after use. It then iterates over each byte in the file using a loop. For each byte, it's generated a random integer between 0 to 255 using the random randint, converts it to a string byte using 2 byte and writes it to the file. This process effectively overrides the entire contents of the file with random byte values. And moving on, we have the next module, which is secure override. So DEF secure override self dot file path. This line defines a method named secure override within the file shredder class. This method is responsible for performing the secure override shredding method using AES 256 encryption. So we have firstly what I'm going to do in this method is key is equal to format generate key and cipher is equal to format key. This lines generate a random encryption key using the generate key method and the format class. Then a format object is created using the generated key, and then we have a with open loop with open file path RB as f data is equal to f dot read. This block of code and the selected file in the binary read mode using a with statement ensuring the file properly closed after use. It reads the entire contents of the file and stores them in the data variable. And we have encrypted data is equal to cipher dot encrypt data with open file path WB as f and file f dot write encrypted data. These lines encrypt the file contents using the encrypt method of the cipher object. The encrypted data is then returned back to the file, effectively overwriting its contents with the encrypted data. And we have a for loop for I in the range 3 encrypted data is equal to cipher encrypt encrypted data with open file path WBSF f dot write encrypted data. This block of code iteratively encrypts the encrypted data 3 more times using the same encryption key. With the iteration, further secures the data by applying additional encryption layer. This results in written back to their file after each iteration. And we have shutil.rm3os.path, their name, and the file path. This line deletes the dictionary containing the file, effectively removing the file itself. This step enhances the security of the shredding process by eliminating the process of recovering any remnants of the shredded file. And let's move on to the next module, sorry, next function, which is function called it shred file. So as usual, starting with def shred file self, this line defines a method named shred file within the file shredder class. This method is called when the shred button is clicked and it initiates the file shredding process based on the selected method. File path is equal to self dot file input dot get. This line retrieves the file path entered by the user in the input field, that is self.file input. If not, OS path is file path. This line checks if the entered file path does not corresponding to existing file using the OS path is file function. If the file does not exist and conditional evaluates to true, self.result label config text, please select a valid file. So this line updates the text display in the result label shelf.result label to indicate that a valid file type needs to be selected. And then we have a return given. This line exits the shred file method early if the selected file is invalid, ensuring that the shredding process is not attempted. And later going into the shredding process, we have method is equal to self dot method var get. This line retrieves the selected shredding method from the drop down menu and stores it to the method variable. And we have if method is equal to simple overwrite 0 into ff, then we are calling the self dot simple overwrite file path. So we are calling the function above. And then if else the method if we are selected is random override in random bytes, we are also calling the random override function here. And else if the method is equal to secure override AES 256, this again calls the secure override function to execute when clicked on secure override. And we have self dot result label config text file shredder successfully. After everything is completed of the above, any one of the shredding process is done, we should be able to give a message called file shredder successful. And moving on to the GUI part of the program, there is also even the execution part. So we have if name is equal to main, and this line checks if the script is being run directly as a main program. When we have root is equal to tk app is equal to file shredder root dot main loop. These lines create an instance of tk class to create the main tkinter window. Then an instance of file shredder class is created with the main window as its master. Finally, the event loop is started to keep the GUI running until the user closes the window. Let's quickly see the output of this program. So as usual, I'm going to go where the program is stored, copy the file name and cmd, and we have python space file name dot py. So you can see we have a browse button where you can select any kind of a file. And we have shredding methods. We have simple override, random, and secure override. For now, let me go with the simple random, sorry. And I'm shredding, and you have a message called file shredded successfully. Thank you so much for watching. If you have learned something from this video, please do like, share, and comment down.